It seems like everyone has their game. Not the game you're the best at, or you played the longest, or even the first game you played. It's the game that somehow doesn't seem to age a day every time you play it. Some piece of the game, maybe the music, the visuals, the story, just gives you that sense of familiarity and comfort. And the clear flaws of that game never seem to bother you, almost adding to the game's charm in a way. Most of you probably already know this game for yourself. Your comfy sweater game. Maybe you thought of an old game that you hop on and play from time to time, or an MMO that you still have your original account for, or an RPG that you've replayed 28 times, and this time you're definitely going to change up your build. For me, this game is MapleStory. MapleStory is an MMO pushing almost 2 decades old. I started playing it in the winter of 2008, and I still play frequently to this day. The gameplay is alright, but nothing that beats some of the experiences currently on offer with modern titles, though the gameplay is certainly better than it was in the past. The visuals are actually quite nice, but nonetheless dated. The content bloat from 17 years of existence is honestly quite impressive, but still can be very confusing to new and old and even current players to get used to all of the game's systems. The microtransactions can be pretty wild at times. Progression is as grindy as most MMOs, and arguably more so in some instances. But despite all this, I adore the heck out of this game. This game has acted as a sort of universal constant for me. Growing up, going to high school, then to college, then moving out, everything that's happened in the past decade and a half, MapleStory has been a sort of grounding point. Something to remind me that no matter how much has changed in my life since the first day I played it, I'm still me. That's what I find so enchanting about that comfort game. No matter how much time has passed since your first and your last play of it, it helps you to reconnect with who you were the first time you ever started it up, and reflect on who you are now. The thing is, I can't pin down the exact reason the game resonates so much with me and became my go-to comfort game. I can say it's impressive how visually compelling the game is for a 2D title, especially considering its age. The story and lore of the world is insane and convoluted, but definitely interesting. The music sounds like the word nostalgia whispered in your ear as you wake up for the first day of summer vacation during your junior high years, but none of it is particularly better than anything else currently on offer. Modern games are absolutely gorgeous to look at, as well as having far more sensible storylines to follow. Specifically among just MMOs, the current titans of World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV have so much to offer, and they're always a blast to play. Yet, I still always find myself playing them for just a few months before inevitably falling right back into the world of mushrooms, slimes, chibi characters, and aggravating boss mechanics. I think the best reason I can give for what has cemented this game into my consciousness is that it really defined the idea of what the word fantasy means to me. Everything is just so over the top, from the story to the skills to even the damage numbers. There's no restraint to the idea of how powerful anything can or should be. Every class takes common fantasy tropes and just cranks them up to an absolutely ridiculous degree. Paladins have 30 seconds of actual invulnerability. Fire poison mages literally pollute the screen with their visuals. Heroes can just cut reality in half. And bowmasters shoot arrows while shooting more arrows, while shooting more arrows, while shooting more arrows, while shooting more arrows. It shaped my perception on how fantasy is just what it says on the tin. It's fantasy. This idea of unbound fantasy extends to the game's world building. The technology is totally out of whack. Our modern world is referenced frequently. In fact, MapleStory's weird world building is a marvel all on its own. It does this balancing act of a ton of themes and elements all at once, making it all the more impressive that it actually kind of works. High fantasy and modern day, technology and magic, simplicity and complexity, fiction and history even. A lot of these things just don't seem like they can be mashed together with any cohesion, and MapleStory just sorta does. The setting is so full of weirdness that any added weirdness just belongs there. Nothing feels out of place in the world despite these crazy contrasts in themes and locales. For example, do you want to go from a Greek-styled temple in the sky into a techno-future upside-down city by crossing through a sparse landscape that you can't tell if it's covered in snow or the ash of oblivion? Well, that's in here. Or what about Choo Choo Island, easily one of my favorite areas in the entire game, and how it stands so starkly contrasted with some of the more somber areas in the zone called the Arcane River, such as the previously mentioned obliviate landscape of Vanishing Journey. MapleStory does all this not by trying to blend every area together seamlessly, but rather by allowing the transitions between them to be so jarring that it just makes every piece of any given area's theme, from the art, the monsters, or the music, to remain so memorable. I am genuinely frightened because I do not think it will be possible to forget the Choo Choo Island background music, ever, in my life. Or something like the boss design of Zakum, or the way the endless forest trees in Alinea are presented through the layered backdrop. MapleStory presents all of its artistic elements in a way that could only be described as intentionally memorable. Now, something that I mentioned before that deserves a special note in all of this are the absolute bops that make up the MapleStory soundtrack. I 100% hold this as one of the best gaming soundtracks that I have ever heard. I am hard pressed to think of any location in this game where the music does not tell you everything you need to know about a location's theme, atmosphere, everything. Just take a listen to a few of these tracks and you'll see what I mean. For lack of a better description, MapleStory's music literally sounds like nostalgia. Friends that have no connection to MapleStory that I've played some of the soundtrack for have all given responses along the line of it sounding happy and familiar, like they had heard it before but can't remember where exactly. To me personally, this soundtrack is ingrained with the feelings of being young and uncertain of the future, but taking comfort in the familiarity of the past and present that these ambient songs seem to represent. All of this comes back to the idea that everyone has drastically different reasons for forming an attachment to a game. Oftentimes, it's because that game was their only respite in the midst of a chaotic point in their life. For others, the game may just carry memories with it of a time when gaming, and the world as a whole, was so much simpler. Maybe over time our comfort games will change as we have new life experiences and make memories with new games. Until then, I know that the crazy little world of MapleStory can take me back to the time when life was more predictable, and I just wanted that dose of weirdness, adventure, and fantasy. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you're interested in hearing me share more of my thoughts on just about any topic related to gaming. If you're interested in hearing about a specific topic from me, let me know in the comments. Also, I'd like to hear from you. What is your comfort game and why? Thank you all once again, and I hope to see you in the next video.